Okay, good morning and welcome to the first ever Internship Success Series webinar. Today I'm here with Merrick Brtek with the Greater Omaha Chamber, and we have some friends from the Lincoln Partnership for Economic Development here with us today. But our goal with this series is to introduce those coming into new internships in two ways that they can be successful during the summer. And today we're kicking it off with making a great first impression. So what you need to do the day before you get started. But before we get into all that, we're going to start with some intros. So Merrick, would you like to kick us off?
Sure. Thanks for being on today, and thank you for making this happen, Shonna. I'm our Director of Workforce Development at the Greater Omaha Chamber, so that means I oversee attraction, development, and retention of talent for the Greater Omaha community.
Kaylie.
Hi, my name is Bailey. Right now, I'm an intern at the Lincoln Partnership for Economic Development. I work for Kaylie and in a marketing and programs role. So I get to help with lots of different events that we plan, work with interns, and make lots of graphic content as well.
And then I'm Kaylie Hogan-Schnittker, the Director of Talent Strategy at the Lincoln Partnership for Economic Development. My role, very similar to Merrick, is connecting with businesses to make sure that they have the best practices in place to hire and retain talent, whether that's at an intern level or all the way up to your executive level.
Great. Well, Merrick, would you like to kick us off?
I sure can. So, we've gone through all of our introductions. I would love to hear what is one piece of advice that you wish every intern knew before their first day?
Bailey, would you like to start as the intern in the house?
Yeah, I got it. Um, I think one thing that's really important to know is just being open to asking questions. You're not gonna start on your first day and understand exactly how your boss works or how your office runs, or maybe where to park, where to eat lunch, like things like that. And so while some of those might seem kind of silly, like, oh, do we eat lunch at one time, or is there do people go out to eat, things like that. Like I remember on my first internship, I was kind of lost as to like what does that look like? And now that I've been doing this for a while, I've gotten more comfortable with understanding the roles of that. But things like that, don't be afraid to ask your supervisor or boss those things, just so that whether that's something work related or something more like what time am I supposed to be in the office working, things like that, so that you're making sure you're on the same page and that you know what's going on because you don't want to be left out of the loop, especially on your first day. But you don't want to get 2 months down the line and be like, oh my gosh, I should have asked this question right away. So I would just say ask a lot of questions.
As Bailey's intern supervisor, I would say she does a great job of that, but so I would definitely echo. But I think this is also something she does well, and something that I think all interns should consider is embrace the internship opportunity to learn and to network. Don't just treat it as a job, but treat it as a chance to explore and build connections and taking advantage of different opportunities, like going to events and meeting other professionals. Especially, I think in Nebraska, we have a really we have a lot of business leaders who are really interested in getting to know young talent, and so I think taking that opportunity and taking advantage of it is huge.
I agree. I agree. So for students who will be starting an internship in the summer, what do you think is a great way for them to learn about the company before day one? Like obviously LinkedIn, things like that. But are there some other things they should be thinking about when trying to get to learn about the company?
Yeah. I would just say before you even go to an interview, be sure you're asking good questions about the organization, things about their culture. What does like a week look like in the day? I think, especially coming into maybe the world of like a chamber or an economic development organization, there's a lot of events. So being upfront and making sure the person you're interviewing understands that. But I also think looking at like Facebook, if they have social media, just to see what's happening, the things that are important to them, what's on their blogs, what press releases have they done. I think that can really give you insight into the type of work that's happening as well. But I think those culture questions are super important. And don't be afraid to follow up either.
I would agree in terms of look at all of the socials. That's going to help you get a really good idea of what's going on within a company, especially LinkedIn. Check out, you can see if you go to a LinkedIn page, often you can see who the employees of that company are. So even going to those pages and checking out what they're posting and sharing, because often they're sharing things that pertain to the work that they do. So I would highly recommend doing that. But there's also no shame if you've been looking through the website, but you want to learn a little bit more. There's no shame in reaching out to somebody that works at that company and asking them a few questions before you go in for the interview to see if it's something that you would have interest in doing, because they're going to be candid with you, hopefully. Most people are pretty candid and really want to support those that are looking for internships. This was actually a conversation I was having yesterday with my husband because I was supporting an intern and getting connected with somebody that's in a very different space than what they do now, but they're very curious about that space. And I was like, well, let me make a quick phone call and see if you can grab coffee with so and so. And I called that person and they immediately were like, oh my God, I'd love to talk to the intern. I'd love to answer their questions. So most people are very happy to have those sit downs and help you get a kind of a view into what they have going on before you go to those interviews.
Yeah, Bailey, anything you want to add to that?
I think I agree with all that. I loved the LinkedIn looking around. I think that it's important to know maybe, yeah, who you're working with. If there's a connection that you maybe really want to meet while you're on your internship, that can also be really cool if you see that a marketing director or something like that, that you're like, oh my gosh, I would love to do what they do. Definitely take that internship time to make sure that, okay, this is what I want to be doing so that you can use that to the best of your abilities, I guess.
I love that. And I know LPED, you guys do some work with careerpathway.com as well. And that's another resource I would recommend for just kind of browsing about like learning about what a company's like. So they have, I think, videos like reels and things like that, and just really treat it as kind of like a social feed for people to explore companies. So another resource that I would recommend.
Definitely.
Um,
Thank you, Shauna, for mentioning that. There's a lot of great content on there. We just had a professional development morning with some juniors and seniors in high school for part of a program called First Job Lincoln. And it was really fun because they got to set up their own profiles and kind of start exploring the content from all the different organizations locally, but yeah, also from around the state.
Similarly to that, there's another resource called there's Symphony Workforce called Find the Why,
mhm.
which is another one that kind of helps tailor to what kind of career path you want to go down. Um, so thank you for bringing up the resources. That's super helpful. What should interns look for when reviewing a job description or discussing expectations with their supervisor?
I would say kind of trying to find a mix of what you already are good at and your skills and something that maybe you want to get better at. So for me in this role, I love the networking piece like Kaylie talked about. I've really enjoyed getting to know people, go to these events. That's been really cool, but I didn't have much experience with event planning. And so I've really enjoyed doing that. What does it look like to get food for an event? What does it look like to pre-plan for summer events, even when we're doing that like in December? So a lot of that has been really impactful, and that I think in a lot of careers I would go into, there will be some aspect of event planning. And so I've definitely learned a lot on that, but I also came into this role being confident in my own um, my hard work, my networking skills, my ability to ask questions, things like that. So I didn't come in like completely out of the blue, but I was able to gain new skills that I definitely didn't have before I started this internship. So I'd say being able to talk about that with your supervisor, but also just being prepared in the job description and interview and things like that to know what you're good at and also what areas you're like, I really want to do this opportunity so I can learn more about this specific thing.
I totally agree with that. I think it's really important to just kind of walk through those tasks and projects, identify what skills your intern is really good at, or you as an intern, what you're really good at, maybe skills you want to sharpen. But one thing I always like to ask is, are you enjoying the work that you're doing? When I do meet with my intern on a regular basis, and just making sure that Bailey is receiving the guidance that she needs, whether that's it, just extra instruction on something that she hasn't done before, but just really working with her to make sure she enjoys the things that she's doing, but she's also getting to use the skills that she has, and sharpening the ones that she really is interested in, especially as they fit with our goals.
I think that kind of tailors back to that initial question of like, what should you know before you join or, before your internship? And I was kind of reflecting on that. And I think it's important for interns to know that we want you to succeed just as much as you want to succeed. And so asking those questions, we're excited for the questions you're going to ask. We want those candid conversations. I have very honest conversations with my intern, checking in with her and making sure everything's okay, that she has the proper workload. Like that's another thing to make sure that is established. Not that you just enjoy what you're doing, but do you have enough on your plate, or do you feel like you're overwhelmed? Because each semester the school load changes, if you're going through school at the same time. So having those conversations as well. But I just think it's important for interns to understand that we really, really want you to succeed. And so we're willing to work through and adjust and help make sure that this is the best experience for you. And I know Kaylie mentioned earlier, like exploring the workplace. I think it's important to explore not only what you do within the role that you have, but often other departments are also eager to showcase what they have too. So, creating time to flex over into those other departments to learn a little bit more about what they offer and what they do, because this is all about learning what are your no's, like what do you not want to do, but what also have you fallen in love with, or are you surprising yourself with, that you're excited about. So I just was thinking about those little nuggets as you were talking through that.
That's good. And that also gives you a good view of like what the organization is about versus just what my role is and my department does. So that's good insight. I think we're on question number 4. I'm hilarious. I'm like, I think so. But how can just setting your personal and professional goals, how can interns set those goals that align with both their interests and their employer's goals?
Yeah, I can go ahead and start. I think that setting those goals and going in really intentional of what do you want to get better at before starting is really important. Maybe you also find things along the way, obviously, but one of those things in this role for me has been this campus LNK brand. So I've been able to kind of bring back a project that the Partnership for Economic Development worked on a few years ago. And so trying to discover how to create content, what do I want people to look at this for, and being really, again, goal setting with Kaylie of what does that look like? When do we want to be posting on this? What do we want this to be like right now, but also what do we want this to be like for the future? Kind of not that I'm posting right now just for right now, but posting so that in a few months or in a year or so, it's maybe still alive and well because of what some of this foundation that I'm setting. And so that's something that a goal of mine was to get more familiar with social media and be really diligent in posting and creating content. And I sometimes don't enjoy doing that, but in this role, I've really learned to enjoy it because I like what I'm doing and I like the mission that the partnership has, but also that this specific like arm of the partnership has. And so I think that's one personal goal, but it's important for me to set those things so that I'm not just coming to work with no intention, but so that I'm know what I'm coming in to get better at and that Kaylie knows what I also want to get better at.
Yeah, I agree. I think in the previous question, I kind of mentioned just being aware of what some of your skills and strengths are, but also being open with your career aspirations. One thing that I really enjoyed with Bailey is hearing about the things that she wants to do in her future and thinking about different things that she can do within the work she's already doing that can also align with those skills. So Bailey loves to network, and so we definitely include a ton of opportunity for her to meet new people and connect with them. And that is also part of the goal of our organization is connecting with people and supporting them and providing resources. So as Bailey mentioned, like Campus L&K, she, as a college student, is creating resources for her peers so that they know what life in Lincoln is like. And I think that that's really cool. And she's really good at it. And she's excited and involved. And so getting to showcase that, I think, through a brand is also really cool because it's helping her as well as our organization.
Absolutely. And I'm thinking too about this goals question. So I know the summer is really short. So if you're just a summer intern, I think it's really important from the employer side that we set aside time weekly or however often that needs to be to meet with the intern and make sure that you're still aligned and that things are still working, kind of like what Merrick was talking about. But yeah, totally. I love that. Merrick, I think you're up.
Yes. So with that, Bailey, how has goal setting impacted your internship? Because it sounds like you did quite a bit of goal setting. So how did that impact your experience thus far?
Yeah, I'm definitely someone that always has goals and is always kind of working towards something. And so I think that for the internship specifically, it's really helped me to hone some of those skills that are maybe that I had, like I talked about a little bit, that event planning, social media, things that I maybe knew about, but because I set those intentional goals, I've been able to vocalize those to Kaylie, but also then work on the projects that I'm getting. And it definitely would be different in an environment where I don't, enjoy working for my supervisor. For Kaylie, it's super easy for me to just pop in her office and say, "Does this look good? What do you think of this?" Things along those lines. And she's been like so supportive with all those projects and giving feedback on those things. And so, but I think that even if maybe you're in an environment that isn't correct for you long term, I think that you can still set those goals and like, what can I get out of this experience and make it the most of it? Whether that's I'm going to learn one skill that I can use in my next interview, or I can I can meet three more people in the industry that I wouldn't have known without this internship. And so I think taking advantage of what you can do, but trying to set goals for yourself so that you know and have kind of a purpose in what you're working on.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I just thought I love
Yeah.
that.
Thank you.
Awesome. Okay. So what's one tip for navigating workplace culture when you're the new intern? And I love your points that you were making earlier on, Bailey, about just not being afraid to ask questions, but what's some other advice you would give?
I think I think just kind of understanding that it's going to take a little bit of time. It's really challenging with those summer internships. I've done a few of those because you just don't have, like for me, I've been able to really see my relationships at work strengthen. They were strong at the beginning, but they've been able to strengthen. Second semester I came back and I feel confident and understand exactly what's going on in the office. And so I think that for those shorter internships, it's definitely a little more challenging, but like I said, that asking questions, but just kind of also being aware and observant. If everybody's going to lunch at 11:30, then maybe you go with and sit and talk to someone new at lunch. Or, if everybody's bringing their lunch every day and you've been leaving every single day for lunch, maybe you try to bring your lunch next week and see if that works out. I guess not just lunch. That's kind of an easy example that I think is kind of overlooked sometimes, but also, what time do we arrive to meetings? Do we bring a notebook? Like just small things like that and kind of observe what everybody else is doing. Because I don't think they'll get mad at you for those, for at least at the beginning, for sure, of oh, I didn't bring my notebook. No worries. Just kind of notice what everybody else is doing and do that next time. Or, if everybody's being really conversational and you are just trying to only get the work done, maybe take a moment and converse to build a relationship and then kind of get back to work. So I definitely think that kind of observing what everybody else is doing can really help you feel more prepared and know what the norm is so that you're fitting that norm.
I would agree. I think asking back to Bailey's like initial point, I think just asking questions is super important. And yeah, that was that was a question Bailey asked. She was like, "When do people go to lunch?" Because it is like clockwork 11:30 is like lunchtime here. I think most people also understand that you're new and you're integrating into the workplace. And so people will be patient too. But yeah, I think that's really important.
At our office, we've had interns starting at different times from each other. Like maybe one has been on longer than the others, or we even have some interns that have transitioned into full-time roles. But it's good to connect the new intern with the interns that have already been there. So if that's not being done for you as an intern, go try to find those that have experienced the internships or see what their experiences have been and connect with them. That helps a lot. We've just seen that there's a lot of camaraderie for those that have gone through the internship experience. And so I know that our interns have done lunch together, or I've even just like walked into the office and all of them are just like in a clump talking about something, asking each other questions. But I love that because they're engaging with each other and they all work for very different departments. So aside from just connecting with your own department or people that have been working in the organization, connect with other interns in the organization if they're there, because they can also help guide you from their own experiences if they've been there before you.
Definitely. And I would say for companies who might watch this, that it's important that you help those students make those connections because
Yes.
sometimes you might have someone on staff who is a full-time employee but a recent intern. And so making that connection, just helping them, the intern feel like, I'm not alone in case you're at a company where you might be one of the only interns at the company. For the last question here, what is one thing a student can do this week? So we're like at today anyway, about a month out from summer internship starting. But what's one thing that they can do this week to show up strong on day one?
I really liked what Merrick said about the research and the LinkedIn and Kaylie too that everybody's kind of hopped in on. But I think that that's something I've definitely gotten better at as I've gone through internships. But trying to see what connections do they have? Do you have not like a weird kind of stalking, looking into it too much, but seeing, oh my gosh, most of these people are from Nebraska. I can talk about that. Or I see that maybe one of these people went to the same college or university as me or from the same small town. Like that's a really unique fact that can help you bond with them right away. And so I think that being intentional and also understanding the goals of the company. So maybe those employees and the company so that you don't start working for them and you're like, oh my gosh, this is not a talkative office. Or this is, they're always out of the office. And I just really want to be in the office working on spreadsheets or working on my work. And so I think kind of understanding the company, what you're going to be doing, and some of the people that work there could be a step you could start now, even before you're in the office.
I think being prepared is really important. Coming in, just so you feel good about your own experience coming in to kind of settle yourself. But I think also just making sure you show up as you are, excited to be there. Don't feel like you have to change the person that you are to enter the workspace. You were hired because of who you are and the experiences that you bring. So know that you're bringing value to the table. And something that I think is always important that I love to share when I'm meeting with interns or teams that I manage is never feel like you're not bringing the same level of value to the table as everybody else on the team. Just because you have a different title doesn't mean that your value add is any different. You just bring a different scope and a different experience to the table. So know that when you're entering the room, to give yourself a little bit of confidence that they asked you to be there and want you to be there, and really want you to grow and be, like I said before, be successful.
I really like that, Merrick. I think it is super important that you, before you go into that first experience, understand that you are valued and that you are bringing a fresh perspective to to the table. I also think just being open to learning opportunities, whether that's, I've seen interns that go into an internship and they were like, came out and they were like, I don't think I wanted to do that. And I think that that's totally okay. So being open to learning and experimenting, I think is so important.
I love it. Well, that is our last question. I'm checking Q&A and I do not see anything out there now, which is totally fine. We will be posting this on our YouTube channel, and then folks can always comment and reach out to us. We truly appreciate you, Kaylie and Bailey, for spending time with us this morning. And Merrick, thanks for joining me and for bringing up this idea. I think this is so fun and necessary. So thank you.
Yes, thank you for organizing it, and thanks for y'all's perspectives.
Yeah, thanks for having us. I had a lot of
Thank
fun.
you.
Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.